Let's welcome to Totally Driven Radio, the man of the hour, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Taimak. Welcome to Totally Driven Radio.
Hi, how are you guys?
So you are. I mean, let's face facts here. You're a legend.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's what happens. Well, that's what happens when you get older than 45, and I'm 51. So I guess that's what happened.
Does that make me a legend too? Because I'm 45, so but you look a lot younger than I do.
Well, we have different lifestyles. Maybe I don't know. I've been taking care of myself. I had some guys in their 30s. I was 19. I was kicking the bag, and they were looking at me and like saying, "Well, he's young now." And then I heard them, and then I said, "Why? What's up?" And they said, "Well, you'll see when you get in your 30s." And then it stuck with me. I said, you know what? I want to stay youthful way past my 30s, and here I am. So I'm very lucky, and I put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, you no BS. I mean, you look great. Like when I saw you were like, would you say 51 years old? I was like, wow, this dude looks like a lot younger than me.
Yeah, well, it takes work. I mean, it's not just that I had great parents and great genes,
And the thing that really puts it in perspective, this is the 30th anniversary year of the Last Dragon movie.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just something else, You do a movie when you're a teenager, and you don't even think more than 3 years ahead. Maybe not even that much. So for me to be here, I've been through a lot of stuff, and I'm very very blessed to be where I'm at right now. It's been selling out 30th anniversary screenings around the country, and we got one Sunday in Yonkers at Draft House Theater, and that's almost 2 screens. One screen sold out, and now they're looking to sell the next screen.
Oh wow, that's wild. It's gotta really, it's gotta shock you. I mean, all these years later, I mean, gotta look back and like, how did this all happen?
I was a kid, and I idolized Bruce Lee like a lot of kids back at that time, 70s. And I had a lot of energy, like a lot of kids, and I put it all into martial arts, and that was a way for me to really express what was going on with me at the time. And it was a dream. It was just a dream. It wasn't a real. I didn't go to acting classes and follow a traditional way an actor gets an acting job. I just had a passionate dream, and it's one of those things. I had to work hard to get the role, but I guess it was meant to be. I mean, I was born the year of the dragon, so if that means anything.
So, how did you, like you said, you had to go through a lot to get the role? Like, when you first found out about the movie, what was your initial impression of it?
I didn't really understand it. That's years later, once you study acting and know more about acting, the acting isn't on the paper; it's in the communications with the other actors, and it's experiential. So, being a 19-year-old and not at all, I never read a script before, I didn't. It was weird. It was funny too, though. But I had no connection with the character. Obviously, being young, being a martial artist, and idolizing Bruce Lee, just like Bruce Leroy in the movie, there were a lot of similarities that I wasn't aware of until I got and the director and producer and Barry Gordy and all that. They saw the similarities, but I grew up in the streets of New York. I was very different in my mind to Bruce Leroy, so I couldn't resonate with the character. That's when I auditioned. I did horrible. I never auditioned before, but I had a friend that helped me to believe in myself, and I went back, and then they hired me.
Were you had to be shocked when you got the role then?
Yeah, everything happened really quickly. I didn't even tell everyone. I was obviously there was no internet back then.
Right.
There was just voicemail and telephone. So my closest friends knew, but they actually cast somebody to play the role, but they fired him. They didn't sign him when I went back to audition the second time after a month.
Oh, really? Okay.
After I got the role, they were getting close, and they didn't have much time, so I went right to rehearsals and all this stuff, So, and then it was a lot of work for the next few months, and that was it. And then they were post-production, something like 6 to 8, 9 months, and next thing you know, the movie came out.
Now, also, too, I mean, that was, I think you filmed the movie in 84, was it? Late 84, I guess?
Yeah. Yep.
And you're working alongside Vanity, who was, I mean, that was like in her peak. I mean, that had to be something like kind of intimidating for you, too.
Yeah, it's so weird, it's a whole different time, it's hard to, because we have social media now, things are, it's just a completely different time because she wasn't in many, the music videos she did get on, I don't even remember them playing on MTV. It wasn't like, it was like underground stuff, you really have to follow, but you did hear the song in clubs.
Right.
And then some people said, oh, you worked with? I didn't even know how beautiful she was. I didn't, it wasn't like she was the girls today, Beyonce. You understand? It wasn't like, Michael Jackson was a big star,
right.
Diana Ross, Donna Summers, Barbara Streisand,
Right.
You know what I mean? These were like the ones that were out. They were legendary and big names. Everybody else was trying to get a nut. So I didn't know anything about it. I knew the song, "Nasty Girls," and I knew who Prince was. Because he already had some hits out. And I met her in person. That's when the first time I saw her in person. I didn't see her on TV or anything before that.
Oh, that's great. I would have been blown away. I would have been like so scared and intimidated.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing. It was. Yeah, I mean, they had their eyes on me, and I just worked hard. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Yeah, they put a lot of Barry Gordy put a lot of his whole thing into it, and money, and TriStar with Sony now. They put a lot, they haven't done anything like that since,
And I read too, like in the opening scenes of the movie where you're training, like you actually, in those scenes, you actually knocked those arrows down that he was shooting at.
Yeah. The thing about that, they weren't heavy, and obviously they weren't sharpened to the point,
Right.
So, that would have been kind of stupid, but yeah, I had great timing. I was training all my life, so it was a timing thing, and I worked the Wooden Man with Ron Van Cleef at the time. When I was training with him, he would have me work the Wing Chun dummy, the Wooden Man. So it was just a timing thing.
Now, also, I mean, the movie, like you said, it's 30 years later, and you're doing 30-year showings of it and stuff like that. But on the flip side too, being the martial artist, I mean, I'm sure you've had many people come up to you and say, you were my inspiration for getting into martial arts.
Yeah, I hear it every day. That's the surreal thing for me, is because in a way, I know a long time has passed, but in a way I still feel like that 20-year-old that idolized Bruce Lee and a lot of other, so the time that went by, I've got grown men, I got MMA fighters, professional wrestlers, football players, all kinds of characters said, man, if I didn't see that movie, I wouldn't be where I am today. And it's interesting to me. I feel a big sense of responsibility, because I'm a hero to them, So in that sense, I feel I'm honored, I'm honored and privileged to have touched these people, and it makes me feel good inside. Yeah,
I mean it's got to be a very humbling experience.
Yeah, Everything that my life is now, it reflects. I'm not perfect, and I don't try to be perfect, but at the same time, everything I do think about people when I do it.
Was there ever any talk of maybe doing a second one?
Yeah, I have an autobiography that Incorgnito, it's COR, Incorgnito Publishing I just signed with them, and it's going to come out in March of 2016. I just finished writing an autobiography, and we're just tying it up and stuff like that. And then I alluded to the book because I talk about everything that happened when I broke off from Motown. I was signed on a contract to do more projects with Motown, but it didn't work out. There was something that happened between myself and not Berry Gordy, but one of his that was partly running his company, and it was Suzanne the Path. And there was something that happened that in our relationship that made it not happen. I write details about that in the book because everything isn't what it appears to be. There's always in the forefront, and the background there's something else going on, Right. Because that's one of the other reasons why I wrote the autobiography is because so many fans over the years have asked me, why didn't I do this, why didn't I do that? And as if I'm the one who's producing the film, I wouldn't come off the street and then to really, unless I had a lot of experience in the movie industry and understand the dynamics that go into making movies, there's no way I can do what Berry Gordy did and produce the film. Now I can, but back then it's a different story.
How about now, 30 years later, with the buzz still around it? Would you turn around now and still consider doing one?
Yeah, I had written with some of the writers a script for a sequel to The Last Dragon, and I'm hearing that echoed in a lot of fans right now. Why not do a follow-up, even though the great Julius Carry Shonuff has passed, or my little brother has passed away. What I realize is I thought about, where are the American martial arts heroes? I mean, real martial arts heroes on film. I don't see anymore.
No.
You had Chuck Norris back in the day, Seagal, but there's no one. So, and I knew that I had unfinished business. I knew that that I could learn what I need to learn to fulfill on my destiny again, because I don't think there are real martial arts films anymore. It's all watered down. Somebody's maybe athletic and they learn martial arts for a film, or they're they have flexibility, or they're dancers or something. But real martial arts has not been on screen in many, many years. It's all watered down. I'm sure you guys are into music, and you can hear when there's a watered down rock song, compared to the real stuff. And for me, I see it immediately, but most people don't have that trained eye. They don't even know, so they don't even know what they're missing. So I'm looking forward to it,
Hey, Bay, can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Just to piggyback off of what he was just saying, I think that that's really an amazing topic as far as the American martial arts star goes. And also, I think that the movie, I'm a huge fan of the movie, and I think that it echoed the culture at the time as well. It's a very 80s film. There's a lot of what life was like in the 80s in it, and I think that, just throwing my 2 cents in there like I'm sure everybody does, but I think there's a real opportunity there to show the world the way it is today as well. You know what I mean? I'm sure the dynamic between Shonuff and Bruce Leroy and everything would be dramatically different with, Facebook and YouTube and World Star and things like that. But there would be a way to incorporate all of that and make it sort of genuine as well, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, the brilliant part of, and Berry Gordy did such a brilliant job, and so did Michael Schultz, and the cast was phenomenal. Just working on the film, going to the set every day was like it was an amazing adventure. So today there's so many things that are serious that are going on, race relations. There's all kinds of things going on today that are different than when I was a kid, but there's still some nuances that are similar. However, what was brilliant about The Last Dragon, the original Last Dragon, was that it had all this humor too, and it had these bigger-than-life characters. So and then all the Asian wisdom and how they made fun of race rather than making it so significant. They poked at the fun part of our differences and racial differences. So I think there's so much follow-up film that can be. It could be a really powerful film. I hear it all the time from fans. Why don't you have a younger kid that you can coach and help along, and that's kind of what I've written in a treatment with another writer about bringing a younger relative along and have him see the things that I saw as Bruce Leroy in the original one, and yet his journey is different than mine. It's still similar in that he has to, just like every human being, to see the light, it's the light, to get some enlightenment that sticks with you for the rest of your life, you have to go to a certain place, That's just the way it is, and, there's no working around that. It's like if you want to be an Olympic athlete, you have to go and climb to a certain top of that mountain to get to the other side. There's no way around it, So,
right, absolutely. That original film too. I think that from the outside you could look at it and you could say that there may be stereotypes in there, but there's really something well beyond that. There's this sort of almost harmony between the fact that you have the Eddie character who's the white bad guy, and you have these African American characters embracing Asian culture. You have the Asian guys embracing the culture of the time. It was really so much more than anything that you could see on the outside. To really look at that film, everybody from the Johnny character to Daddy Green owning a pizza parlor was different than what you were seeing at the time. They weren't stereotypes. They were almost the opposite. Right.
They were showing you exactly that anybody from any race can love any other race, that we're all one race. These things that are going on with the cops and the violence and the protests and all that, it's gotten to a place where it's highly emotional, and it's just gotten to a place where people aren't as solution orientated, or there's more pointing the finger, and unfortunately you never get real results that way. Not really. There's accountability, of course, but in the big context, there's just a way to approach it, I think, that when you take the emotion out, you can think clearly on a result,
Right.
It's a very difficult thing for people to deal with, because some people are dealing with it in their community and they're in fear, and then there's other sides of things. There's always other sides of things. So these very serious things that are going on in America and in other countries, but they're going on here in our country. A film, like a follow-up to this film, can be very powerful if it's done right, because that's what you're saying, how, there were stereotypes there, but it was more about how they saw themselves, like the Asian guys loving the little things that some black cats would do, listen to Temptations and play craps or whatever it is, and my character loved Bruce Lee, so much that he wanted to be him, I'm just overjoyed by the fans that love this film so much, and that I see them in person. They bring their children, because it's a film that young people can watch too.
Now, let me ask you this: when did you realize that it had become more than just the film? That it was a successful film. It made, I think, over $25 million. It was very successful for the time. But when did you realize that it became sort of this cultural phenomenon that it was.
Yeah, you're right. You know, what happened was there was time that went by. Young people parents would send me emails with their kids. I mean, literally 5, 6-year-olds. They'd have them addicted to the movie. You know, one of my best friends, her son was only 5 years old, and she played the movie, and I would never talk about it because I didn't say until I was thinking like maybe 8 years old to watch a movie. But she said she had it playing, and he keeps asking his grandmother to play the movie again, and she said he wants it on every day now. So what happened was that's when I realized, when I saw that it was a film, people like brothers and uncles and fathers and grandmothers would play their youngsters. That's when I knew. And then younger people would meet me that were anywhere from 6, 7, because their parents or somebody brought them over, or 30 years old. They just born when the movie came out, or younger. You know, so that's like at these autograph signings and at Comic Cons and at these 30th anniversary celebrations. I see that, young people, their parents bring their kids. It's amazing. That's when I started to realize that this isn't going anywhere.
Well, and I think one of the things the film really has going for it is that it is a film that grown-ups can enjoy, but also kids can enjoy. There's not, a significant amount of sexuality. The violence that's in it is well done, but not brutal. There's a clear-cut good guy and bad guy, which is something that's kind of missing from American cinema today. And I think all of those things combined, it opened up the audience to kind of everybody.
Yeah, and one of the things is talk about the racial aspect of it. Back in 1985, TriStar told Berry Gordy that they think it's a black film, so they didn't promote it to a white audience. In 1985, it wasn't even promoted. It was only shown on a radio station, WBLS, and at that time, BET just started, and BET, it was like ridiculous, and it was so ignorant. But that's in the time machine. If you go back at those times, there was ignorance in a much higher dynamic as part of society, and then social nuances. It was 30 years ago. And it was just amazing that they didn't see it appealing to a white crowd. And I've got fans all over the world, that are white.
Yeah, absolutely. And the two questions I had before I throw it back to you, Bay, is the first question was that I had heard a rumor that Berry Gordy had influenced the character in different ways than what was originally written, that Leroy was a harder character to begin with, and that he wanted to make him more sort of softer and innocent and shy. Is there any truth to that?
Lewis would be able to better answer that because Lewis, he's he's a writer, and they kept me out of those conversations. I actually am supposed to be talking to him more details soon. He'll be at the Urban Action Showcase, which is Demetrius Angelo. He throws a wonderful film festival every year, and it's November 7th and 6th of this year. Louis Finosa and I will be showing up there to talk about those details of the,
Okay, great.
He had that relationship with Berry Gordy where they would discuss it, that way. But I was so young, they didn't want to.
Right.
I never did a movie before and acted, so.
And then I guess the other question I have is there were two minor characters in the film that went on to be sort of huge stars, I would say. I mean, William H. Macy and Jazz Palminteri are both significant names in the business now, and you got to work with them as a new actor. They were up and coming, I would say. This was probably even before Bronx Tale.
They weren't even up and coming. They were looking for work.
Right.
They were just starving actors that were happy to get a job, Yeah, they were great. They're great, That's
fantastic. Pretty amazing. And then you got to see you got to see them coming up as well, and that had to be pretty cool. And along with the other things that you've done, and I know Bay has a list of other things, so I'll let him get back to it. But thank you for the questions.
Well, the next question I had is we talked about Vanity, but then you also got to work with Janet Jackson in her video.
Yeah. Back in the days, all the lovey-dovey videos and all that stuff. cheesy but fun. Everybody loved it. Yeah, yeah. I write more details about that in my autobiography, but I met her in California just very briefly. But after that meeting, she contacted Beth Ann Hardison, which was a modeling agent, and said she wanted me to play her boyfriend in the music video. And that's how that happened.
You had to work with some very impressive women there.
Yeah, I wasn't complaining.
And then you go and you end up playing a date rapist on Different World.
Yeah. You know, what happened was I was getting into acting after Last Dragon. I really wanted to pursue the craft, because compared it to the martial arts, I think, okay, I can't just expect to know what I'm doing just because I did this character. So I started getting to the acting classes, and everybody was saying to me, Taimak, you gotta play some different characters, otherwise everybody's gonna know you as that character. And I at first I was disagreeing, but then these were actors, in the business that knew more than me, So Debbie Allen, she reached out to me and said that I'd be perfect for this role, because at the time, date rape, these knuckleheads are putting roofies in girls' drinks in clubs and then raping them, So it was the thing in these colleges, and that was what the character was about. It was like a character. I was like a star baseball player, hot shot that Freddie in a Different World had a crush on, But yeah, I was not a good guy in that movie, in that TV show. I got a lot of play. It was very helpful.
Yeah, now, playing something like that, was it weird for you to be? I mean, totally different, out of your element.
No, I was committed as an actor at the time, because it was a few years after Last Dragon, so I was studying acting. So I was just playing a character,
Yeah, because I mean, was that like your first time playing the quote unquote bad guy?
First time playing in a role outside of The Last Dragon, yeah.
Yeah.
Other than I did a couple of plays, but yeah, that was on camera, yeah.
Wow.
First time.
You were also in early UFC. You officiated some matches.
Yeah, what happened was Ron Van Cleef competed, and they wanted him. He was the guy I was training with, and they wanted him to be like the general of the whole show, and as far as rules and how fighters should be treated and so forth. And he was smart enough to take out some of the very deadly strikes, like obvious things like chops to the throat, back of the neck, the back, the spine. You allow that to go on too long, there's a potential of getting paralyzed or severely hurt. So he took those out, and they asked me if I would referee, and I did for a little bit, but it was like the Wild West, those fights in the hallway, and I just knew that it wasn't good for me to be in that environment. I liked some of the fighters, but then some of them were just goons.
Yeah, that UFC kind of isn't the UFC that's on TV today, right? I mean, it's a totally different entity.
Yeah, they didn't have a real structure. They were just shooting at the hip and would create almost like the WWE of UFC. I still think, talking about doing follow-ups to The Last Dragon, I see a lot of problems in society with young people, and, it's always been where a young man wants to prove himself and has his chest stuck out, and it's great for sports. However, in real life, that's not how you want to be. You want to be humble. So I think the character Bruce Leroy is very powerful in that he's not one to push himself around like that. I think that he's not the typical hero with a gun in his hand, ordering people around. I think, and that's great, There's some great roles. Look at what Clint Eastwood did with that role, However, I think they need to show a different side of power. Power is not just sticking chest out, I think power is also being wise and walking very humble.
Absolutely, and I think that's something
I think we need that in America, don't you think?
I agree, absolutely. And that's something that, earlier in the show you talked about how you weren't really connected to the character and you were a new actor, and I think that that's amazing because to me, it was the most authentic character in the show. The things that did come across were humility and respect and restraint. Bruce Leroy never called himself the Last Dragon. That was something that, Show Enough called him. He never said that he was
right,
super
exactly,
ninja or anything like that. He was just, if he had anything to prove, it was to himself, not to anybody else.
Right, and that's a powerful lesson to give a young person.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you have children, you want those kids to get that. You got very successful people in the corporate world that don't even know that. You're like, wow, these people didn't get it. It's interesting.
Now, did UFC ever approach you to become a fighter?
No, I guess they think of my age. I mean, I'm training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a fabulous group of guys who are like family over there at Marcelo Garcia. I met him a few years back, and I'm a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I really enjoy it. I just, found a new home to do something different than what I do, with the body and other art, but the grappling. I haven't been asked to be involved with anything.
How about in the world of professional wrestling? Was there ever any interest in that?
I did a little bit of that with Jimmy Wang Yang, who was with WWE for a while. It was crazy. I write a lot about that in the book because I didn't feel comfortable at first because he had me working out with some of these young guys that are doing the pro wrestling a lot, and I don't particularly let cats throw me around unless I've created a little bit of a relationship, with them physically. I know that they know what they're doing. But these guys would grab me and throw me. I said, wait. Jimmy's like, no, just go with it. It's okay. I said, yeah, that's because you guys grew up in this, and I need to know that this guy's putting me, post your hand on his hip, do the hands, and let him fall back. I did it all, but I did a couple of shows locally in Ohio, but it was, I never felt comfortable, and I think they were just rushing me along because of The Last Dragon, and he wanted to show people that I could do this stuff, and it was some fun in it, I started to have fun with it. There's a great guy, Jimmy Mayhem, doing, he actually plays Shonuff in some of his wrestling matches on the West Coast, and he was really great. And I did a little show with him. It was fun, a lot of fun.
Did I see too that you've done stunt work?
Back in the late '90s, I did Universal Studios. They had a show called the Miami Vice Stunt Show, and I played the Tubbs character. I was, jet ski stunts and high falls and fight scenes.
Oh wow!
It was great. Actually, I met Mark Coscos back then when he was doing a Conan the Barbarian show there, and it was a great time.
So what are you doing today?
Well, I'm finishing up on doing some tightening up on my autobiography. I've written a few scripts. Come to a place where I think I'm ready to come back out and give a shot at it. Sony is releasing the Blu-ray rendition of The Last Dragon, and it's remastered, and there's interviews with myself, with Barry Gordy, with other cast members, and so this film is just, I'm getting emails from Germany, England, Brazil, Spain, everywhere about how people love this movie, and I'm looking to take the show on the road.
That's awesome. Now, do you do the convention scene as well? Yeah,
I'm doing a few Comic-Cons. One, obviously, the New York Comic-Con's in October. I've got it's all on my website. It's Taimak, IamTaimak.com. And in the appearance section, you see the different appearances I got. But this Sunday in Draft House Theater in Yonkers is one of the screenings. I'll be signing autographs there.
It's awesome. Now, does other cast members going to be there for that one as well, or? No,
what happened was at this time, Sony hasn't gotten behind a lot of them. They may be doing some of their own, and so it's like the budget doesn't allow for having all the cast members. It's getting everybody over there. So right now it's just moi.
It's just the main man. Cool. Yeah, I'm checking out your a lot of appearances coming up.
And more are being added. Yeah. Right now I'm very excited about the rest of the year and next year, and doing another great movie, you know.
Now, and you said the book will be coming out next year, March next year?
March of 2016, yeah. The book is obviously my story, but I think a lot of people will be able to see some similarities with their story and their life because it's all relative. But the main purpose of the book is that anything is possible, even the things you think aren't possible or possible. It's just about looking within and find it.
Well, Taimak, this has been great. I know my co-host over there, Nick, is he is like in dreamland over there.
Honored and humbled, definitely. I mean, it really.
Will you do some kung fu this week?
I might
will you put your Bruce Leroy outfit on and get your hat on and show me some moves and show me some video?
I'm a pretty big guy to be wearing that tight yellow uniform, but I'll do it.
I'll tell you what, if you get him to do that... Get the Kung Fu slippers. If you get him to do that, I mean, that could be a viral YouTube video.
Halloween's not too far away.
That's true. That's true. And we never even talked about the skill that it took to eat popcorn with chopsticks.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got to give credit, man. Louis Minosa, the writer, just came up with some brilliant stuff. Who would have thought of that, right? Who would have thought of that?
Absolutely.
It's great stuff. Great stuff. Nick, anything else you want to ask before we let him go?
No, I just, and not to fan out too much, but again, I just want to reiterate that, the thanks for all of us that were sort of influenced by that and had that with us growing up, because for me and for a lot of my personal friends, Bruce Leroy he was a hero to us, and I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, man. Thank you for enjoying the film, and trust me, I've got more in me, so... Thanks for the support. I want to keep the show rolling. Sure thing. This is Taimak, a.k.a. Bruce Leroy. You're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too. Take care.
All right, good night.
All right, everybody. There he goes, the one and the only Taimak.